20 years of marriage, and my husband had kept a mistress for 15. To force me to give up my place, he only gave me 1,000 yuan a month to live on. I stubbornly raised our 2 sons alone just to make sure they didn't end up unhappy. In the end, I died from overwork. But when I opened my eyes again, I was back right to the day we first argued about divorce. Both of my sons stood in front of me and said they wanted to live with their father. I knew instantly they were reborn too. I opened my eyes again. Everything was black at first, then slowly became clear. The mess in front of me stunned me for a moment before I realized where I was. Isn't this the apartment Luis and I bought when we first married? Later, he secretly sold this place and kicked me and our 2 sons out, forcing us to rent a shabby unit in an old neighborhood. We lived there for over 10 years. I touched the wound on my forehead, trying to remember what day it was. In my past life, today was the day I found out Luis was cheating. I lost control and fought with him. He shoved me. I hit my forehead on the corner of the coffee table and passed out. I was lucky to survive when I woke up and demanded a divorce. His entire family showed up, trying to persuade me to stay. Come on, every marriage goes through this, they said. My sister wanted to come from out of town to pick me up and take me home. You'll always have a place with us, she said. But I was angry. I insisted on my rightful place as the legal wife and refused to let that scumbag get what he wanted. Still, my stubbornness didn't stop them from living a good life. Luis shamelessly sold the house behind my back, moved to another city with his mistress, and even had a child with her. He only returned to our hometown every few years, usually just a light scolding. After his mother died, he stopped caring altogether. The happier their lives became, the more I clung to my place, determined to be the biggest thorn in their side. I raised our 2 sons alone until they grew up, and then I died young from overwork. In my last year, lying in the hospital, Luis spent over 200,000 yuan to send his illegitimate son overseas for school, but refused to pay for my son's college. Remembering all this, I got up from the floor and slowly walked to the mirror. Seeing the wound on my forehead made me smile. Not enough. I looked around, grabbed a nearby glass, and smashed it against my forehead again. Blood flowed, and I finally smiled with satisfaction. With my hair soaked in blood, I dashed out of the house, panicked and helpless. This time I won't waste my life in that burning pit again. As I ran out, I bumped into a neighborhood auntie. Seeing her, I cried out in panic, "Help!
Help!
My husband is trying to kill me." She wasn't the type to back down. She shouted, pulling me into her arms. "Don't worry, he wouldn't dare. Calling the police right now. Tell me what happened." Seeing her concern and curiosity, I threw myself into her arms and cried harder, careful not to let her see the smirk at the corners of my mouth. "I can't go on anymore," I said. "That bastard cheated on me, and now he wants me to give up my place for that woman or he'll kill me. I've given him 2 sons, served him for years, never heard a kind word all year, and now he wants to buy a house for his mistress." Tears and blood mixed across my face. I pounded my chest and stomped my feet, looking as pitiful as I could. And I had no doubt this auntie would exaggerate the story even more than I did. Soon, the police arrived quickly. My eyes lit up, and I grabbed the officer's hand, crying out again, "Comrade, you have to help me." The female officer took me aside briefly to treat my wounds, then brought me back to the station to file a report. Not long after, Luis, who had been called, showed up in the lobby with a gloomy face. As soon as he saw the police, he immediately put on a fake, flattering smile. "Officer, I'm really sorry. It was just a fight between husband and wife. Nothing serious. Sorry for troubling you," he said. The young female officer handling my report suddenly slammed the table in anger. "A fight or domestic violence, you? Know very well which one it was," she snapped. As for him, he looked smug and fearless. One knew well that in domestic disputes, mediation was usually the first step. Luis came out after giving his statement, nodding and bowing with a smile. All right, I'll change. I'll definitely change. You're right to teach me," he said. But as soon as he turned to face me, his expression flickered into malice. I curled my lips into a smile and fainted dramatically in front of Everyone at the hospital, I went for a checkup. Thanks to my acting skills, I received a diagnosis of suspected brainstem injury. I realized then divorce was inevitable. Even if Luis was furious now, he wouldn't dare lay a finger on me. We went back home peacefully. But what was coming next was the classic in-laws trial. Around 1 p.m. the next day, Luce's entire family arrived. The moment they stepped inside, his sister saw the bowl in my hand and immediately scowled. "Fiona, my brother works so hard to support you, and all you do is cook and clean. We came all this way and didn't even get a bite to eat or a glass of water. They used to gaslight me like this in my previous life too. Before I discovered Luce's betrayal, he used to give me 3,000 yuan a month for household expenses. That amount covered everything: the boys' needs, food, electricity, gas, social obligations, weddings, and funerals. I had to pinch every penny, but it was just enough we weren't living in poverty. Back then, I believed the story that Luis supported everything in the household. But now, ICI was the one hustling early mornings for discounts on appliances and grains. If I hadn't carefully managed the household with Luis smoking 50 yuan cigarettes, that 3,000 yuan wouldn't have lasted a week, and not a single cent was spent on me. I slurped the last few noodles, then slammed my bowl and chopsticks down. Wiping my mouth, I said, "Aunt, you came without warning. How was I supposed to cook anything?" Nodding toward the trash can. "Can't even offer you water." "Luis smashed everything yesterday," I added, pointing to my injury from the flying glass. "Big sis-in law. I'd get 3,000 yuan a month to run this whole household," I continued. "Last year, when you had your second baby, I gave 1,200 for a gift. When I was hospitalized for birthdays, you never returned the favor. If you give it back now, I'll go buy groceries for you all." She was so choked up she turned her back. To me, after playing the bad cop, Luce's mom came over to be the good cop, frowning in concern. "AI, what couple doesn't argue? Sure, it was wrong of Luis to hit you, but you can't call the police over household matters." In my last life, she couldn't control her mistress, so she took her frustrations out on me, the so-called easy target. She tried to gaslight me, saying, "We're all on your side, just wait it out, and that woman will end up with nothing." I let out a cold laugh. Not only did I speak up this time, but I made sure everyone saw it. Suddenly, noisy. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The neighborhood auntie and her gossip gang had arrived. "This house right here, that bastard cheated and hit his wife," she announced loudly. Don't know what kind of mother raised a man like that. On the spot, Luce's mom's face darkened. I held up the injury report from yesterday photos. Of bruises and cuts, gruesome and undeniable. "Don't bother trying to talk me down," I said plainly. I told him I was divorcing him. If I didn't, I was suing him. Luis exploded. "Fine, let's divorce," he snapped. "I've been dying to get away from you anyway." But his mother didn't want the divorce. She knew very well her son was almost 30, owned nothing but a house that drained the family's savings, and he'd never find another fool like me who worked herself to death without complaint. I want to live with Grandma. Me too. I want to live with Dad and Grandma. Suddenly, I didn't notice when the boys appeared at the door. The three of us locked eyes. In that moment, it all clicked. I knew it. My sons had been reborn too. In my past life, I struggled to raise them alone. Even with 3 jobs, day and night, I couldn't cover all their expenses, while other kids traveled on school breaks. Mine could only work part-time. By their teens, when they were still growing, meat was scarce. They'd eat cheap cookies late at night and drink water to fill their stomachs and stave off hunger. When one of them got sick, a kind teacher tried to tutor them privately, but we couldn't afford it. Despite being top students, they ended up at mediocre colleges. When they caught colds, we could barely buy cold medicine. One hardship after another, how could they not resent it? Luce's mom, who had been hesitant before, suddenly lit up. "My 2 grandsons," she said, voice firm as a judge's gavel. "Grandma didn't love you for nothing. Divorce you must divorce him." She was humiliated earlier by neighbors, but now her pride was restored because of the boys' support. Luis smirked at me smugly as if to say, "See? Once you leave me, you'll have nothing, not even your sons." I nearly laughed out loud. He still didn't understand how expensive raising kids was. The house wasn't in my name. I paid for the renovations. When it came time to split the assets, Luz's mom said smugly, "This house is ours. We'll give you at most 30,000 yuan. Take it or leave it, Tor. Take the furniture." The furniture, just 10-year-old junk. Since my family lived far away, they thought I wouldn't take anything. They underestimated me. Called the neighborhood aunties whatever they liked. They took what no one wanted. I called the recycling man, for Luis watched the house empty. Piece by piece, his face turning green with rage. "Fiona, you're heartless." I rolled my eyes. "Leaving my dowry for you and your mistress now, that would be heartless." Once I moved out, the other woman could finally move in. As soon as the divorce was final, Luis set a wedding date. On their wedding day, my sister came from out of town. She lit firecrackers and beat drums downstairs early in the morning. Neighbors all knew Luis was remarrying. No one even blinked. My sister handed out candy to everyone she met, grinning brighter than a blooming flower. People who didn't know better thought she was the one getting married. Passersby, amused, took candy and asked, "Is there good news at home?" She beamed and stuffed candy into their hands. "There is good news," she said. "My sister got divorced." Then she pointed upward, signaling them to look. She had hung a banner over the entrance that read, "Celebrating my sister's divorce from a heartless man. Congratulations to the ex-brother-in-law on his second marriage." The new bride insisted on a grand entrance riding a flower sedan through the main gate, only to crash right into the welcoming parade my sister had arranged. Seeing her approach, my sister turned around, waved her hand, and said, "Strike up the band. Let's welcome the new bride properly." Everyone watching immediately understood what was happening, with help from the neighborhood aunties explaining everything. The crowd was fully entertained. The bride was supposed to step over a fire basin as part of the tradition, but Gloria refused to show her face. From inside the sedan, her voice trembled with sobs. "Let's go." Louise, the star of the day, was under every gaze and humiliated by all the pointing fingers. My two sons hugged their grandma's waist and frowned. "Grandma, Mom is going too far. How could she do this?" Across the street, I sat in my sister's car watching everything unfold, my nose prickling with emotion. That moment made me remember the day before my wedding in my past life. My sister had come into my room, holding my hand with worry on her face. She said, "Fiona, you were such a good kid. Why are you being so stubborn now, insisting on marrying far away? If something happens, your family won't be able to help you." Back then, I didn't understand her sadness. Donley blood ties are truly unbreakable. Even though I left, I had made arrangements. Aunts agreed to watch over my two sons and report back if anything went wrong. Not long after, my aunt came gossiping again. "Fiona, that new wife Luis married isn't easy to deal with. She says women should be pampered, not treated like maids. Luis has to cook for her every night now. If he comes home late, they just eat out." I felt a mix of delight and cynicism. Gloria, Luz's new wife, only has a high school diploma and started working young. She's just 21, with limited options. She saw Luz's house and thought he was a great catch, so she married him eagerly. She's not particularly beautiful, but she's young and knows how to act coy. Luis was willing to spoil and spend on her, but didn't consider if he could really afford it. He might cook for a week, but definitely not a month. Especially since, when I was there, he never had to lift a finger. How could he tolerate this now? Sure enough, my aunt smugly told me Luis had been grocery shopping daily. He had no idea you needed to get up early to grab the best deals or wait for discounts. But he was enjoying himself, posting updates on social media. There they were, shopping at the supermarket. Snacks, premium fruits, tiny organic veggies wrapped in plastic. Everything looked perfect and picture-worthy. But I knew it wouldn't last. Still, I didn't expect their first fight to come so quickly. It happened through my son's smartwatch call, left open in the living room, just for me to hear. "How much can groceries cost? I give you 4,000 a month, isn't that enough? Can't you cut down on snacks? You didn't eat the snacks, now you're blaming me? Didn't you say you'd treat me like a queen forever?" "I should have married someone my own age." Gloria started crying. Luis immediately softened and lowered his voice to comfort her. All right. We ate out too much this month. Next month we'll cook at home. You buy the groceries, I'll do the cooking. Okay? And just like that, they made up again. On the other end of the line, I laughed coldly. Two people who've never been crushed by the grind of daily life itself will teach them a lesson. Peace didn't last. Long soon enough, chaos returned to Luz's household. Now, the money Luis gave Gloria was supposed to cover the entire family's expenses. But she thought the two kids only needed a week's allowance since they ate and lived at school. What she didn't realize was that boarding school kids often brought back snacks. Fruit and milk, on Sundays extra food to enjoy during the week. My two sons, of course, never said anything to her or bothered Luis. They just lowered their heads. Silently, whenever classmates asked why they never brought snacks or fruit, when the classmates told their parents that the boys had to share others' snacks, the adults immediately understood the situation. My aunts, out walking with my sons, ran into Luis and half joked, half scolded him, saying with a stepmother, "Comes a stepfather too. If it's too much, maybe just let the kids live with their mother." After more nagging, Luis got furious. Tired of cooking, he snapped at Gloria and dumped all the housework on her. His excuse? Since the money isn't enough, I'll work more overtime. Gloria will have to handle everything at home. Then came the classic manipulation. Look at your friends still working factory jobs, living in dorms or rented places. None of them have it as good as you. You live in a big house, don't have to wake up early, just cook and relax. This family was really skilled at emotional manipulation, used to do it to me. Now it's Gloria's turn. At the end of the day, they're all selfish and only love themselves. Soon. It was New Year's Eve, in my past life. Gloria's obsession had always been to be officially brought home by Luis and accepted by his mom, not just to be his nameless mistress. Now she had her wish. She was officially the daughter-in-law. She truly felt like part of the family, which made her more vulnerable to their brainwashing. That night, Luis video called me. I answered. On the screen, my two sons looked clearly reluctant to be there. Before I could speak, my mother-in-law cheerfully chimed in, "Oh, these boys. It's only proper to wish their mother a happy new year. They're just shy. Fiona, don't take it personally." Luis played along, acting the part. "Yes, say Happy New Year to your mom. I'll give you a big red envelope afterward." Looking at Luis and his smug family on the phone, I couldn't help but laugh. My sons were incredible actors. The more distant they were from me, the more they blended into Luz's family and the more chaos they could stir from within. Reluctantly, my sons said Happy New Year to me before quickly turning their faces away. But Luz's family smiled happily, proud of what they saw. I heard Luis in the background. "Here, boys, 200 each." I smiled sweetly and hung up. My mother, sitting across the table, gave me a disgusted look, curling her lip. Ungrateful brats. All those years of love wasted. I gently picked up a piece of meat and comforted her. "It's okay, Mom. They'll understand when they're older then," I casually asked. "Is Uncle Nestor starting up a factory? Should I go help?" My mother was surprised. "How did you know?" Of course I knew. In my past life, my mom had asked me the same thing, whether I wanted to make a little extra money. Honestly, the pay was decent. Calculated monthly, it was even more than Luis earned. But Luis didn't want me to work. He said I should stay home and focus on houseworks, so I gave up the opportunity. Later, Uncle Nestor's factory unexpectedly flourished. It grew bigger and bigger. Those early workers who stuck through the tough days now received shares, earning tens of thousands in dividends each year, their own income. These housewives stood tall and proud at home. Meanwhile, I endured Luz's constant nagging. "If only you had gone out to work back then, you'd have shares too. Things wouldn't be so tight now." And after he kicked me out trying to survive on just 1,000 yuan a month, my regret only deepened. My mom hesitated, saying, "Uncle Nestor did ask, but I think it's too tiring. There aren't many workers. Everyone has to do the job of two people." ... I cut her off gently with a smile. "It's okay, Mom. I can handle it." I want to earn money to take care of you in your old age, compared to the kusa the Shenghuo in my previous life. Now that I'm away from Luis and without kids to care for, it's just earning money for myself, honestly. It feels incredible at the start of the year. I returned to Luce's city and started working. Uncle Nestor chuckled, saying, I looked like someone who had been starving for days. I said nothing, just smiled because he wasn't wrong. If I had seized this chance and earned my own income in my past life, things wouldn't have been so hard. Now that I've regained it, I treasure it more than ever. Time flew by, and my 2 children were now in 9th grade. That year, Luce's mother fell ill. In my previous life, around this time, Luis and I started living apart. And then Luis and Gloria didn't even bother hiding their relationship from me. They'd even video chat right in the house. I was juggling, taking care of the house and looking after his mother at the hospital. When I finally snapped, I cut all ties with Luis. Not long after, he sold the house without asking and threw me and my son out. Now, Gloria had to face it all. After nearly a year, the pampered girl who once enjoyed others supporting her had been worn down by life into a resentful housewife. Tight finances, a passive-aggressive stepson, and a husband who acted like a guest at home. None of this was the married life she had imagined. When Luce's mother fell ill, even if Gloria didn't want to, she had no choice but to care for her at her bedside. Living in the same room with someone she disliked only bred more conflict. That's when the mother-in-law remembered how kind I'd been. She asked Luis to bring me back to take care of her for a few days. I was amazed by their shamelessness, but still smiled and agreed after all. We were once family, helping during tough times is the right thing to do. A year apart had done me good. I'd been eating well, relaxing, and my complexion was glowing. I looked nothing like the woman in his memory, now so poised and reasonable. Even Luis looked at me differently. Fiona, I'm starting to regret it, he said. I smiled as I watched him leave, then wiped the spot where he'd touched me with a disinfectant wipe. That man always brings misfortune to those around him, pure bad luck. I brought my thermos to the hospital ward. His mother was overjoyed, treating me like her own daughter. Oh, Fiona, come in, sit down, she said warmly. When I laid out the soup and nutritious meals I'd prepared, the patients in the room looked on with envy. Oh my, this must be your daughter, someone said. Double quotes. See, your own child always treats you best, another added. Much better than that daughter-in-law from earlier, someone else commented. I just smiled and said nothing. Luce's mother looked a little embarrassed. I gave her an out. I still call you Mom, don't I? I said softly. That whole afternoon, Luce's mother couldn't stop complaining to me about how Gloria was unsatisfactory, how miserable life at home had become, and how much better things were when I was around. She's still young. In a few years, she'll learn how to do things. She sighed. Humans are just pathetic. They never appreciate what they have until they lose it and compare. But deep down, they're still selfish. Luce's entire family was cut from the same cloth. When Luis and Gloria were fooling around outside, he liked her youth and liveliness. His mother, loving her son more than anything, tolerated it. Though grudgingly, now that Gloria had officially joined the household and they realized she brought no real benefit, no value, they started to despise her. Just as I was about to leave, Luce's mom held my hand with regret. I should never have agreed to let you to separate, she whispered. Gloria had just enjoyed a few carefree days when my son told her I was back, taking care of Grandma. She snapped instantly. My son texted me to leave right away. I quietly exited the hospital room and hid nearby to watch. Soon, Gloria stormed in angrily. I heard a loud crash. She must have knocked over the thermos I'd left on the table. I take care of your whole family, and now you regret it? Think Fiona's better? Let me tell you, no way. More crashing and slamming followed as she expressed her anger. The crowd of spectators got quite the spectacle that day. Later, Luis texted me asking if I'd consider getting back together for the kids. Honestly, I do plan to reconcile someday, just not right now. Luce's mother had completely lost face in the hospital and couldn't stay there any longer, so she had to transfer to another hospital, another expense. Gloria obviously wasn't going to take care of her again, and I definitely wouldn't go either, just to avoid suspicion. At that point, only her 2 grandsons would come by after school to keep her company for a little while, casually. I brought up the topic of needing tutoring for school. How could she possibly say no? But Gloria, now in charge of the household, Money refused without hesitation, unwilling to go along with Luce's mother's wishes. In Luce's eyes, View now disrespected his mother and mistreated his sons. Whatever affection he had left for her was completely gone. To push her into a divorce, Louis stopped giving her money for living expenses and kept yelling at her and hitting her. I checked the timing. It was about time I went to talk to her. In the cafe, Gloria sat across from me. She was completely different from the girl I met last year. Her hair was tied back in a low ponytail, but a few strands had fallen across her forehead, clearly hurriedly tied. What stood out most were the dark circles under her eyes and the lifeless. Look in them, she didn't look like a girl in her early 20s at all, but someone who had aged 10 years overnight. I saw the hostility in her eyes and offered a calm smile. We're the same. We were both deceived by Luis. You've seen it now, haven't you? What he says and what he does are two completely different things. Don't think I came here to gloat. You think I still care about that hellhole of a family? Reason I stay involved is because my sons are still there. That's my life now. You're only 22. It's not too late to turn back. Your life is still yours. You thought you married for love? And now, if you get pregnant, things will only get worse. Whether you divorce or not, that house of his gets split 3 ways. How much do you think your child will get? Wasting your whole life on this? Not worth it. In my previous life, this was exactly the time when she got pregnant. If she had given birth to that child, she would have ended up fighting me for the inheritance. Finally, Gloria came to her senses. She initiated the divorce herself. She had entered the marriage with nothing, so naturally she left with nothing. She aborted the baby and asked Luis for 30,000 yuan in emotional damages. I nodded. That's about the going rate. That's what a woman discarded by Luis is worth. As a fellow woman, I felt a pang of sympathy seeing Gloria's pale, fragile figure. Wasting her youth and ruining her health for that family, it just wasn't worth it. After the divorce, Luis immediately asked to remarry. I refused, only agreed to return to the household, but not to remarry. To show sincerity, Luis agreed for now. He did all the shopping, cooking, and cleaning. I focused on working and taking care of our sons. The tutoring classes my sons couldn't afford in my past life, I now had the means to send them, even if they resisted. What they lacked then, I doubled now. I spent money on them without asking Luis for a cent, his money whether for groceries or bills I didn't ask. Sometimes I even stocked the fridge myself. Now he was eager to hand over the money to me. I still refused. This marriage and managing the household finances were like meat dangled in front of him. He'd chase after it while it was out of reach. But once he got it, he'd slack off again. Human nature can be disgusting, and Luis was the worst since her last illness. Luce's mother's health had worsened. She spent half the month bedridden. She didn't have long left. I took better care of her than Luis did. She kept hoping Luis and I would remarry soon. Mom, your health is the most important. Let's go to the hospital for a checkup, okay? That checkup revealed mid to late stage lung cancer. Chemotherapy would cost hundreds of thousands, with no guarantee it would work. Conservative treatment, she'd be lucky to survive the year. I asked about private insurance and they made it clear. No coverage for pre-existing conditions. I rushed around trying to help her, and everyone saw my efforts. An aunt from the neighborhood pulled me aside and asked, Fiona, after all they've done to you, how could you go back to that fire pit? What's wrong with your head? I just smiled and didn't answer. How could they know that this seemingly a foolish woman who had given everything to her in-laws who wronged her was secretly plotting revenge? Even Luis was moved. At dinner, with a face full of regret, he said, Fiona, I was a fool before. I didn't see that only you truly cared about me. Let's live well together, just the 4 of us, okay? He even teared up mid-sentence. Watched his crocodile tears met my son's eyes, and felt nothing. We all knew he wasn't truly sorry. He was scared. Scared we'd leave him behind. Scared that I, who could now earn money, would do just fine without him. But my sons and I had lived through this life twice. We'd crawled out of hell. How could we be swayed by a few fake tears? Good people get bullied. Gentle horses get ridden to death. Luce's mother passed away. Luis and I registered for remarriage. That night, he held me as he sobbed and apologized. I didn't bother to listen. I tolerated his fake tears and gently patted his back. Luis, I'm so scared now that Mom's gone, I said. It's all happened so suddenly. We've been through so much. It's not easy finally having a stable home. Something unexpected happens. Illness, or worse what, if we can't afford treatment. Let's buy some insurance, shall we? He agreed quickly. That weekend, we went to the insurance company and bought a high-value life policy. Watching Luis finally sign his name on the contract, I could finally breathe easy. From then on, all I had to do was wait. According to what my sons told me just before starting university, Kay decided to take a long-distance bus to save money. But that bus was caught in a chain reaction accident and plunged off a cliff, no survivors. In this life, it's with all the money I poured into private tutoring. Both my sons made it into top universities, redeeming the regret of my previous life. I took my sons ahead of time and tricked Luis into that same bus. Under the pretense of a family trip. Hey, Luis, I already got your ticket. Hurry up, our son just got into university. This is his only wish. You dare say no? This is the fastest option left. Sleep on the bus and you'll arrive tomorrow. If I don't see you tomorrow, you'll regret it, I promise.
Ow.
The next day, the three of us sat in front of the TV, waiting. When the news finally aired, we cried tears of joy. Clinging to each other, wiping away the tears, we looked outside clear blue sky. After Luce's death, I went to claim the huge insurance payout. Everything was in order.
No one could find fault.
Later, when the list of victims was released, his sister finally learned the news from the media. She immediately barged in, trying to kick me and my sons out, yelling that the house belonged to her brother. Her voice was so loud, it drew all the neighbors out. After hearing her rant, a young woman rolled her eyes and snapped, "Lady, do you even know the law? They're the legal heirs. If you try to kick them out, they can sue you for unlawful occupation." I remembered her. When Luis divorced Fiona and brought in that other woman, wasn't she also there? TSK, TSK. I knew this family was no good. Kicking out the woman who raised your two kids shameless, I stood silently in the doorway, smiling. With so many people chiming in, she couldn't even lift her head in shame. In the end, she threw herself on the floor, howling like a madwoman. My life is so bitter. My poor mother raised my brother and now he's dead, leaving everything to this evil witch. Mom, take me with you, she cried. The police arrived and ended the chaos. To avoid further trouble, I sold the house at a low price and left with the money. 4 years later, my son graduated from a top university and got a job at a major tech firm. Thanks to my early investment in Uncle Nestor's factory, I now receive substantial annual dividends. We have a bright future ahead.